Good day to our listening and viewing audience. Welcome to Marriage Encounter. We're delighted to be with you on SLC Adventist and on Second Advent Radio. We are so happy that you have joined us today. We are continuing our discussion on boundaries. And with me, Dr. Greene, is Dr. Braithwaite. Dr. Braithwaite, good day.
Good day, everybody. We are happy and excited. We're looking forward again for sharing with you. Again, we encourage you to contact somebody, WhatsApp them, let them know that Marriage Encounter is on, and that this is the time, this is the moment, this is just the opportunity that we have to enhance our marriages.
Well, before we go into our discourse today, we want to invite you to just take a moment for a word of prayer with us. Father, we give you thanks for your love, your grace, and your mercy, for the gift of marriage, and pray that as we seek to make clear your principles today, that you will guide in this discussion. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Doc, we have been having a very rather intriguing discussion on this matter of boundaries. Something that is new to many of our listeners, from some of the comments, we can tell that, but a very important discussion nevertheless.
Extremely important.
And we have spoken about, to some extent, love, which of course is the foundation of marriage. We have spoken about responsibility. Last week we spoke about freedom. Today we want to look at the triangle of love and freedom and responsibility.
Yeah, very important. And I like the illustration of a triangle. When you look at the 3 points, those are the 3 points that are going to really be foundational in establishing and operating that whole discussion that we've been having on boundaries. So, just to reiterate them again, we're talking about freedom, we're talking about responsibility, we're talking about love, and how these 3 points interact to enhance our marriages.
Yeah. So if you know what a triangle is, 3 points, as you mentioned, you can put each one of these at one of the points on the triangle. And let's begin with the whole concept of freedom. God created us as free moral agents.
That's right.
So before you were married, you were an individual and you had a certain degree of freedom.
Yes. And even though you are married now, you are still an individual and you still have a certain degree of freedom.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Now we're tying these together because I want to say here that with the freedom that you have a responsibility to use that freedom in a meaningful way. So the combination here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you live free, but you also take responsibility. And we spoke about that quite a bit last time. You're living free, but you are also a responsible person. And in the context of a relationship, when you live free, when you take responsibility, it breeds love in the relationship.
That's right. Yeah. And when you are in love and make a commitment in marriage to your spouse, you do understand that your freedom, your responsibility to use your freedom to help you to love your spouse in a more appropriate way.
That's right.
If you disregard the responsibility to use your freedom well, it's going to impact your ability to love your spouse.
Yes, and that's a negative impact. That's something that is going to draw the sentiments of love away from the relationship. So responsibility and freedom, they work hand in hand. That's what we're trying to express today. They work hand in hand, and as you practice those, it becomes sort of a beautiful cycle, Doc. Freedom. You practice freedom in the context of responsibility. That responsibility breeds love, and love now moves you back around to freedom. So it's a nice cycle.
Because when I'm in love with my spouse, I do not want to control my spouse.
No.
I am put off, disturbed when, if my spouse were to express the sentiment that I am a controlling husband, that would cause me to pull back and to wonder, what am I doing that is creating this impression?
Right.
Because here we're going to talk about perception.
Yes.
And if my words are being perceived, because it is important to know that even if I tell you I love you and you don't feel it, then it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So that perception of which you spoke is so important. When you are living in an environment where you feel sometimes that you are doing everything that you think you should do for your spouse to love you, but then your spouse is showing signs of some concern, then you should be concerned. am I just doing things that I think, or is this sort of in the context of the respect of which we speak? And there are some things that happen in relationships, Doc, that can breed the kind of negative sentiments. You can have things like self-centeredness, that can sort of rob us of the kind of freedom that we're looking for. You can also have things such as hurts, past hurts that come up and sort of strangle your relationship. You can have other actions that just do not breed or do not encourage love. And those are things that we have to be careful of.
I call these the results of sin, because we live in a sinful world, Doc. As human beings, we are imperfect.
Yes.
So we're striving.
Yes.
We're all striving. And perhaps it's a good time to say that we're not painting a picture of a perfect relationship. We're still human beings. We still operate within the sinful environment. And there are times when your natural disposition is going to cause you to want to be self-centered. But look at it here now, that when I am self-centered and I'm looking out for my own interests, sometimes I want to disregard the boundary of my spouse. And so it's about me and what I enjoy and what I like. And so if, for example, as a married man, my wife may have had a long, tough day, but I feel that I want to engage her in sexual relations and I ignore the fact that she's tired, that she's not feeling well, then that is encroaching on her boundary, her freedom.
Yes.
And so it is important that when we talk about the triangle of responsibility, that I have to act responsibly, and that must be prompted by love, which is going to help me to respect the freedom of the individual.
There you go. The responsibility also of your spouse to draw certain things to your attention. As you mentioned, the illustration that you use, I might be a little self-centered. I'm thinking about myself, not thinking about my spouse and the fact that my spouse is tired. My spouse now has that responsibility to draw to my attention. Responsibility. We're talking about the triangle, right? So, that person now has that responsibility to draw to my attention that, I am overstepping my boundary. All right. And that helps me to kind of come back into a sense of equilibrium. Okay, you know what? Yes, I need to think differently in this regard. And respond to my wife's being responsible.
So we're therefore saying that when we have the awareness of these three principles, the freedom, the responsibility, and the love, that it's a self-regulating mechanism, so to speak.
I like the way you put that. Yes,
so that if I am responsible, is going to help me to recognize that I have to use my freedom in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
If I really love my spouse, I am going to act responsibly.
Yes.
And so it helps to self-regulate.
Self-regulate. Beautiful. I like that, Doc. Because again, moving from responsibility, when my wife is responsible enough to outline where I might be a bit self-centered, when I observe that, it is the principle of love that's going to cause me to regulate, and say, what? Let me not push for that thing that I wanted. Let me consider the needs of my spouse more at this time than my own need. And that self-regulation, because you love the person, it now releases you. It gives you a sense of freedom. I don't have to feel bitter. I don't have to feel angry anymore. I can be relieved of those emotions so that I can now be free to love again.
Last week we spoke about young couples, finding themselves in the relationship, understanding where the boundary lines are, and making adjustment. And as you live, as you grow, as you develop, as you make accommodations and you adjust to one another, and you begin to respect the individual freedoms that they should be, the relationship becomes sweeter.
Yes.
And so after a while, when you are married for 20 years, when you're married for 25 years and beyond, like myself, then you begin to appreciate.
Yes.
And to say this thing gets sweeter as time goes by.
Yeah, I've made the point over and over again, Doc, that these things don't come overnight. It takes time. And, one of the most powerful principles of relationships is really commitment. We've spoken about it in times past, but I just wanted to highlight how valuable and important commitment is, because some people tend to give up too soon. Things may not be going the way you would like them to. You feel a sense of hurt and discomfort. And this is within the normal realms. We're not talking about things like abuse and so on now, but we're just talking within the normal context of marriage. Some people give up too soon because they don't feel like some of their needs are being met. But I'm saying, and we're saying, work together. Take moments of marital education seriously. Invest in your relationship. Learn new skills, and it's going to get better.
Doc, you mentioned something there that joggled my mind and caused me to think of another triangle. The triangle where there is, now we spoke about love, responsibility, and freedom.
Yes.
And there is a triangle where there is commitment. When you said commitment, I remember that.
Yeah.
Commitment, love, you may want to call that liking, love. And then there's passion.
Passion, yes. Oh,
and we spoke about, these being in equal proportion. But I want to zero in on the commitment that you mentioned, because you're indicating there, and I want to kind of put commitment, tie that to the responsibility aspect of it. It is so important to have commitment to the relationship.
Yeah.
It is so important to have those things, and we spoke. We had before, when we were just on radio alone, we did talk about commitment, but just a quick review. We spoke about constrained commitment, which are those things that we do. You have a mortgage together,
right.
you have children together,
there are some things that constrain you to being together.
These, kind of help you not to walk away from the relationship.
Right.
Now, these are important. These are good things. And we say that sometimes, were not for these, some people would have left.
Yep.
These are good things, but you want to build on that. So the constrained commitment is not enough. You need more than that, Doc.
Right. Yeah, you need commitment that is just out of the context of love. That's commitment that deals with those principles of love, loving kindness, the keeping no record of wrongs, those things that move beyond the constraint now. And we said that, it's important to build constraints in your relationship. Take that mortgage together, have those children together, build a house together, yes. But beyond that now, the passion, the love, the experiences, the fun times together, those things also are critical and important as you build commitment. Doc, I don't know, but as families, so many people get married, and it's a good thing. People still have confidence in marriage, and I give God thanks for that. But I'm saying, in that context, when people get married, there must be that combined commitment. We're working on the temporal things together as a family, but we're working also on the eternal things together. Those things that are going to keep us strong, that relationship with Jesus, that prayer, that family worship, those things. And even though the difficult times will come. The difficult times will come.
You will have challenges in your relationship.
We are saying, I am committed to this relationship.
A determination to press on in spite of. Now, if we bring that back to the concept of love and responsibility and freedom and see how it ties together, you have that determination that your relationship is going to survive. Yes. You have to want it to happen.
Yes.
And when you want it to happen, why do you want it to happen? Because you love your spouse.
Yes.
Because you are committed to your spouse.
Yes.
Because you love your spouse, because you're committed to this relationship, you are going to exercise the responsibility to live. First, you see, responsibility functions in sort of two-dimensional way. I must act responsibly with myself, with guarding my own boundary lines, with not overstepping my boundaries outside of the marriage.
Yes.
So how do I relate to individuals of the opposite sex.
Right.
They must know that I am married. If I'm afraid to let people know that I'm married,
You have a big
then
problem.
there's a big problem,
A
indeed.
huge problem, yeah.
Because there's a why behind that.
That's right.
You know, so people must know that I'm married, and I must act that way. So I have to have that personal responsibility outside of the home. And in the home, I have to have the responsibility to appreciate, respect, and love my spouse in
Right.
a meaningful way.
So it is two-dimensional. I like that. And as I focus just a little bit more on, in the home, and respecting the boundaries of my spouse as well, that component, as we've spoken about over the last few weeks, is imperative. And it's something I think that again, individuals have to attune themselves to, because it may not come naturally. You're in a marriage, and for some unknown reason, there's this assumption that I must choose the model car that we're going to buy, just because I am the man, or the wife may determine I must do so and so because I'm the woman. I'm saying that there are certain assumptions that we go into that relationship with, as opposed to looking at where we are, assessing the boundaries, and saying, okay, this is what my wife is like, this is how she functions, these are the feelings that maybe there are things that she does that evoke certain feelings in me, but she has the right to operate in the way that she does. So,
I want.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
That's
sorry,
fine, that's
but
fine, yes.
I wanted to add, she has the right. Well, let me not say she. He or she.
He or she, yeah.
Has the right to express their own views
Yes.
publicly,
Right.
likewise.
Yes.
I mean, you may be in church, there's a
Yes.
discussion, or somewhere else, there's a
Yeah.
discussion. And how often you have this notion of a spouse speaking for their partner. The person is saying something and you end the sentence for them, or you take over the conversation, or you whisper in their ears, this is what you must say.
Right. Right.
Individuals have the right to free expression.
That's right. That's right. And that, as I said, persons take those things for granted. That you're supposed to do what I say. If I say to park there, you should just park there. Don't ask me no question. If I said don't wear that, you're not supposed to wear it. We need to attune ourselves to the freedom that you as a husband have, or that your wife has, and even that to some extent our children have as they get to certain ages.
That's right.
Of maturity and responsibility. Because again, we can create a vicious cycle. If you live in an environment where there's so much control, and your children see a husband controlling his wife, or a wife controlling the husband, they're going to go and repeat that in their own relationships.
We're early in this discussion, but that issue that you just raised there is so very important, because we're models for
That's
our
right.
children.
That's right.
Our children are going to look at us to see how we function. And you may, in a home, I've discovered where people try to hide things from the children, the children still see.
They still see it.
Because
Still see
we have to remember that there is body language, and,
Yes.
and so the children can sense that something isn't right between mommy and daddy,
Yes.
and sometimes they see mommy crying secretly,
Yes.
and that kind of thing.
Yes.
But when they understand that there is freedom, when they can listen to a discussion between mommy and daddy, and they can hear, what do you think, honey?
Yes.
That question is suggesting that your opinion counts.
That's right. That's right.
And so, in an indirect way, we are modeling for our children, and our children are learning that this is good communication skill, that respecting one another's freedom is important.
Very important.
And when you grow up in an environment like that, you feel secure. You feel that your self-esteem is established and becomes strengthened.
Right. So and again, this is what the triangle does for us. When there is freedom, when there's responsibility, and when there is love, the other person, as you express yourself in those ways, the other person, now feels a sense of, I can do this. I am free. I feel happy. I don't feel, stifled. And that, we've spoken about so many things. We talk about emotional freedom being the catalyst to greater physical expression. So if people are struggling in their sex lives, you may want to look at this and say, you know what? If my wife doesn't feel free to express herself, my husband isn't free to express himself, that is going to also translate into the bedroom.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that one thing impacts another thing.
Yes.
Now, because we're talking about this triangle of love and freedom and responsibility, the individual who, I'm going back a little bit to last week's discussion, Doc, because the freedom concept is coming through here again.
Yes.
The individual who feels that they're being overpowered, that they're not free in the relationship. Maybe they didn't take responsibility early enough.
Right.
But what can they now do?
Right.
So their spouse is always speaking for them when they go out in public.
Right.
They go to dinner and the spouse decides what we're going to have. Now imagine you go to dinner with your spouse. You know, the waitress comes and she puts the menu there,
Right.
and you look through and you say, honey, this is what we're going to have. now, we may laugh at this, you know, but honey, this is what we're going to have.
But it's the truth.
As opposed to, what are you going to have?
Right.
You know, this is what I would like to have. What are you going to have?
Right.
You know, but when you can't even choose your own food, then something is wrong. Now, if there's a spouse listening who is living with this kind of self-imposed slavery, how does he or she break from this?
Right. So again, we have spoken, Doc, about taking responsibility, right? And when your spouse oversteps their bound, you now have a responsibility to address that.
That's right.
Now, every journey starts with one step. First step. And the next part of your journey is by putting the next foot in front of the other one.
That's right.
You know, if you don't start somewhere, it will never happen. And today is as good a day to start as any other day. Meaning that if having heard this discussion, Doc, you determine, look, I'm going to start to take responsibility. And, you know, if my spouse imposes herself on me, I'm going to, you know, in a respectful way, I'm going to say to my spouse, well, no, I want to have the vegetable soup.
Yeah.
That's what I want to have. I don't want to have the bruschetta. I want to have the vegetable soup.
So now this is important, though, because you're talking about taking a step, but a very important step. Sometimes that first step is a difficult step to take.
Yes.
So when your spouse says, this is what we're going to have, you can say, that's what you are going to have.
Right.
I am going to have something else.
There you go.
You are not taking the decision for your spouse,
No.
but you're not necessarily taking the decision from your spouse either.
Right.
So you can say, thanks for suggesting, but this is what I am going to have.
Yes.
You know, and that's recognizing your boundary. You're effectively saying to your spouse, you just overstepped.
Right.
You just stepped out of lane.
Yes.
So
I'm helping you to get back in the right lane.
that's right. That's right.
You know, Townsend and Cloud make a statement here, Doc. I have to share this. They say, where there is no freedom, there is slavery. And then it says, and where there is slavery, there will be rebellion.
That's interesting. Now, the rebellion sometimes take long because sometimes it boils until it reaches that boiling point.
Right,
you know,
right.
so there's the heat that is coming up.
Right.
The water doesn't bubble in the pot the moment you turn on the stove.
No.
You know, it
Builds.
gets to a certain temperature, and then it begins to bubble.
Yeah.
And if there's no escape routes, it's going to explode. So it's an interesting statement.
It is.
Where there is no freedom, and we're emphasizing the fact that if your marriage is going to be a meaningful relationship, there has to be individual freedom.
Yep, there must be. You know, some people are wondering, I wonder why, you know, I invite my spouse to dinner and they don't want to come anymore.
Because, well, it could be that you want to determine what they eat.
That's right.
But it could be that, you know, you're going to dinner with two other couples and your spouse is not capable of, feels no longer capable of expressing herself because she doesn't want you to stop her or to shame her.
Right.
That's right.
So the point I'm making is that her not coming out with you anymore is a form of rebellion. All right? They no longer are going to allow their freedom to be taken away. And so they've chosen, I am no longer coming out with you. Now, that unfortunately is not what you want to happen. What you want to happen is that the spouse will actually take responsibility and say, I am going to address this. I'm going to help you to stay in your lane.
Because, you know, the rebellion is a rebellion over the controlling element.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I'm not going to play this game with you because you're a bully. You want to take over.
Right.
I'm not going to come with you because, you know, you want to own me.
Right.
You want to be my master. And I don't want to go out any place with my
And
master.
be controlled like that.
That's
No,
right.
That's absolutely it. So again, you know, that triangle, Doc, is so powerful. You know, we talk about freedom, we talk about responsibility, we talk about love, and how those things interact I love the way you said it, to self-regulate. Keep your relationship self-regulated.
Very, very important principle. Doc, I wish we had more time, but this is all the time we have for today. Friends, the good news is we're going to be back next week again, and we are going to continue this. In fact, it's going to get better.
Yeah, I believe it will.
We are still in introductory phases. It's going to get better. So make sure you tell a friend that Marriage Encounter is on. In the meantime, send your comments, your concerns, and your questions to marriageencounter@slcadventist.org. That's marriageencounter@slcadventist.org. Until next week, same time, may God's richest blessings be yours.